Thank you so much for joining us on this very hot, lovely day.
Happy to be here.
Is it true that heat waves are the most deadly weather event?
Yes, it is. It's not very well known, but they are more deadly than tornadoes, hurricanes, or any other kind of extreme weather event. In the US, the numbers vary because there are a few different ways of tracking heat-related deaths, but we see anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 per year on the low end to upwards of over 5,000 on the high end deaths per year.
So aside from fatalities, what other health events can occur from extreme heat?
There's a variety of other health problems. So if you think of heat stroke as the fatality, there's also heat exhaustion, which is like just getting sick from the heat. Indirectly, heat can also exacerbate existing medical problems like asthma, so it can make your symptoms worse. There's also the way that heat can interact with chemicals in the air to actually increase air pollution. What that means is that by exposing people to more air pollution, it adds to asthma, it exacerbates cardiovascular illnesses, and just overall creates a lot of exacerbations in people's health.
So as we know, there isn't exactly equality when it comes to who is affected more by extreme heat. Black and brown communities suffer more. Why is this, and what can be done about it?
You're absolutely right. This is something that we're very familiar with in Chicago. Researchers refer to something relevant here, which is called the social determinants of health, and that includes race. So for example, Black and brown communities are more likely to be exposed to toxic air pollution. They're more likely to have other pre-existing conditions because of those exposures, wealth inequalities. All of these things contribute to differences in health outcomes that can be extreme. In fact, when it comes to heat-related mortalities, Black Americans are about 70% more likely to die than the general population. And in Chicago, we see this playing out with a 10-year life expectancy gap between Black Chicagoans and white Chicagoans.
Wow, 10 years is a big difference.
It really is, and there's a lot that we need to do to address it.
So Chicago residents are at a higher risk of struggling through the extreme heat due to less access to air conditioning. What are some programs that our community members can take advantage of?
That's a good question, and you're right, this is an issue specific to Chicago. So for example, among single-family homes, only about a third of them in Chicago have central air conditioning, whereas nationally, it's over 3/4. So this is a specific thing in Chicago, and honestly, the best way to go about it is a combination of improving the homes and adding air conditioning when it's needed. When I say improving the home, I mean things like air sealing, insulation, just making sure that the heat doesn't get in just through the walls. You can also install what's called a heat pump, which, despite the name, does air conditioning as well as heating. And what that does is, by installing that as an energy efficient measure, replacing an old boiler or furnace with an energy efficient heat pump, you can both reduce heating costs in the winter as well as add air conditioning where it's needed.
So one thing that I found while working at Elevate is that though air conditioning is sometimes can be hard to afford, our community members are very creative with finding ways to stay cool during the summer months. So what are some tips and tricks our community members use to stay cool during the summer?
People are really resilient and innovative, and what we find from research is that people are the best people to know what's best for themselves and their families. So, for example, we recently spoke to a homeowner who lives in the Chatham neighborhood, right here in Chicago. And what he mentioned doing was, okay, yes, your typical stuff, your fans, your opening windows, things like that. He also closes the blinds in particular rooms where the sun's streaming in, which can make a big difference in reducing the amount of heat that comes into your home. Beyond that, there's going to the pool, movie theaters, plus the city is paying attention to this now as well. The 2022 Chicago Climate Action Plan cites heat vulnerability as a major issue and includes a variety of recommendations for addressing that, with programs like we mentioned about improving homes and energy efficiency. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people do. So for example, we've spoken to folks in Chicago Lawn, in Austin, in Englewood, and all of them have strategies for managing heat within their homes. For some, it's window air conditioners that they can adjust as needed in particular rooms. Others, they close off certain rooms to both cool their living spaces while also reducing their costs. And these are things that you can do in the winter as well. All of these things are low-cost ways to reduce your bills for heating. There are parallel strategies that people use to reduce their bills for cooling in the summer, on top of going to places with air conditioning.
So where was the research done?
We've been doing research interviewing homeowners across neighborhoods of Chicago. Some of the main ones are Chatham, Auburn Gresham, Englewood, as well as Chicago Lawn. And what we find is that people think a lot about their homes. They really care about their homes. They put a lot of time and effort into crafting the home that they want to live in, and that includes cooling. So they have these strategies, whether it be a homeowner in Chicago Lawn who always opens windows when it's mid-range hot, but then turns on the window AC when it really gets up there in temperature, or our homeowner in Chatham who closes blinds in the rooms that get all the sun. These are smart people. They know what they're doing. Sometimes they just need a little help.
Thank you so much. This is Anna McCreary. I'm Amrit Such on behalf of Elevate and our partners at CAN TV. Be sure to check in on your friends and neighbors during these hot summer months. And thank you so much again for joining us.